Go to bed and wait for the Sandman. I don't know why I said it to Daniel that night. It just slipped out, but it worked. He went to bed without a fuss. The next morning, as I made breakfast, he asked, "What does the Sandman look like?" "Nothing really," I said. "It's just an expression." I didn't think much of it, not until I saw the Sandman myself. That night, I peeked into Daniel's room to check on him, as I always did. I froze when I saw a pale, naked man sitting on the edge of his bed, rocking back and forth. It took me a moment to process what I was seeing. I ran into the room, ready to attack, but the man turned, and I realized it wasn't a man at all. It was something hairless and warped, with joints bending the wrong way. It moved like a marionette in a nightmare. I couldn't move. I felt warmth spreading down my leg, and realized I'd pissed myself. Daniel was still lying in bed, his eyes wide open, staring at the thing. I snapped out of it, grabbed him, and bolted. In the hallway, I looked back. The thing didn't follow. It just watched us for a moment, then crawled to the window and jumped out. I called the police. What could I say? How could I make them understand? I couldn't even understand it myself. Daniel told them it was a man in a mask. I wanted to correct him, but I couldn't explain it either. So I nodded and said, "A man in a mask." The doctor said Daniel wasn't hurt, and we stayed at a motel for a few nights. When we returned home, I installed a new security system and bars on the windows. I hated how they looked in Daniel's room, but I couldn't risk it. 2 weeks later, Daniel stopped talking. At first I thought it was a phase, but he wouldn't say a word, not even when I asked him directly. Back to the doctor we went. They couldn't find anything wrong. Maybe it was the trauma, they said. I couldn't afford a psychologist, so I was stuck. He'd write yes or no in response to questions, but that was it. I missed his voice so much it hurt. I convinced myself that the intruder was gone, but at night, I'd hear sounds. Not normal sounds. A slithering, like something moving through the house. I'd get up to check, but there was never anything there. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse out of the corner of my eye, a pale foot or a misshapen shadow, but when I turned, nothing. I started losing sleep. I hadn't left the house in weeks, except for groceries and the bank. I called my mom, hoping to hear a familiar voice. The line was bad, her voice faint. We talked about nothing. Then, I heard it. The sound of someone trying to hold their breath and failing. "Ma, is there anyone else on the line?" I asked. "No, dear. I'm on my cell." I dropped the phone and raced through the house, checking every room. No one was there. But the feeling that someone was listening, that someone was always there, never left me. I tried to examine Daniel like I used to at the hospital. One morning, I listened to his chest with a stethoscope and couldn't hear a heartbeat. I thought the device was broken, but when I checked my own heart, it was clear as day. I tossed the stethoscope in the trash. Things got worse. Every shadow, every corner seemed to hide something. I imagined figures crawling in the walls, lurking behind me wherever I went. I knew I was losing my mind, but Daniel seemed unaffected. He'd squeeze my hand or hug me when he saw me stressed. Sometimes, it was the only thing that kept me going. One night, I found myself creeping around the house in the dark, hoping to confront whatever it was. I checked every room, even the small, drafty spare bedroom I rarely used. Nothing. I was going mad. I returned to Daniel's room, and just before I opened the door, I heard him talking to someone. I burst in, but there was no one. Daniel was sitting up in bed looking at me. I searched the closet, under the bed. Nothing. I laughed, more out of exhaustion than relief. Tomorrow, I thought, we'd leave the house, get some fresh air. We'd try to live again. As I brushed Daniel's hair, I noticed something. I pulled him closer, my heart sinking. His ears were gone, just smooth skin where they used to be. I panicked, holding him close, and ran into the hallway. But there it was, waiting, a pale, naked figure, rocking back and forth. It turned to me, its head twitching with each word. "Hello, Daddy." Daniel hadn't spoken. I looked at him. His lips didn't move. "Who are you?" I demanded. "Someone who came to visit," it said. "You invited me." I felt cold. Why here? I had something you wanted. A son. I stared at Daniel. His eyes were shut tight. "Open your eyes," I whispered. Slowly, he did. His eyes were gone. The thing spoke again, He's coming back to be part of me. I held Daniel tighter, but he was getting smaller, dissolving in my arms. His hair, his hands, his feet, all gone. I was left holding empty clothes. I turned to the thing. Why did you do this? It was what you wanted, and I learned so much. I tried to remember details about Daniel, his birthday, his first word, but they were slipping away. Photos vanished, toys disappeared. His room was gone. I was alone. The thing said, "A father should know." And then it was gone. A year later, Abigail worried about me. She said I'd never been married and never had kids, but sometimes she caught me staring at the wall, like I was trying to remember something that wasn't there. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more.